Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News for the 19th of February of the grand old year 2017. Metaworld News brings you news headlines about sometimes a little bit about virtuality, but in particular about social virtual worlds and in particular the hypergrid. Once again this week, my apologies, we are not joined by Maria Koroloff, who's normally with me here. For those of you interested, the good news is she is getting well and is less poorly than she was last week, but hasn't actually been able to do much all week and therefore has no news to bring us. At least that's her story. However, of course, I am always always joined by my colleague James Atloud, and I shifted him over here to the main desk.
Hi, Mel.
So we look better, eh, James?
That's right. That's right. It's balanced. Got the two
It's
sides,
balanced,
the yin and the yang.
the yin and the yang, indeed. So this week I have a few things that qualify, as you can see on screen, as VR news headlines. We're not covering that much here on, the 1,000 new headsets a week kind of thing, just general patterns of things going on. Um, I guess Monday's main news, or actually it may be more like Tuesday or Wednesday, is the announcement at 9 to 5 Mac. That's 9 the numeral, 2 the word, 5 the numeral, and then Mac, as in Macintosh with a capital M. 9 to 5 Mac reported that VR desktop has been released on the Mac, and what it basically does is it brings Oculus Rift and in shortly some other VR headsets to the Apple Macintosh. Oculus users, whoever you are, probably know that at the moment you're tethered to Windows machines. Well, you can now tether yourself to a Mac thanks to VR desktop. A site called Backchannel, which is a sort of subsite of Medium, I guess, and I'll be mentioning Medium a couple of times later. They had a very interesting post from somebody called Kristen French. First they got sick, then they moved into virtual utopia. Now, technically, I suppose this is an article about Second Life, but it's rather a long, great article talking about people with disabilities and overcoming problems and things, and how they moved in to Second Life and the like to empower themselves, where they were became less so empowered in other respects. A very good article indeed, and I noticed Lyndon Loud themselves retweeted it almost as soon as I posted it. So very good article, and that's actually posted on Medium, and I'm actually finding quite a lot of posts on Medium at the moment. We will discuss this further in the show following this, the In-World Review, which is up at noon. Something called the blockchain. The blockchain is the kind of thing that empowers things like Bitcoin, but it's also been discussed as a way of powering virtual identities, where you can have real world verification, but coupled with total anonymity. In other words, the fragments of your identity are scattered in kind of what I kind of think of as a distributed database that can't ever be entered except through one, tag. And basically, you verify aspects of your real world identity by giving verification, to people that need it, but only giving them the tag they need or the tags they need, if you see what I mean. But I'm out of my depth on this. I'll be relying on some guests in the world to enlighten me. Right. Something very popular, by the way. This is a bit outside VR. It's and the hypergrid. Virtual worlds best practices for education. You can find them at vwbpe.org. And Dr. Celia Pierce was responsible for a post at the beginning of the week announcing this year's keynotes. Basically, that's all there is to it at the moment. The conference starts is for 5 days on March the 29th, which isn't that far away now. And it's always a very big, important conference. 1 or 2 days are actually based in Open Simulator here. At the Avacon region, and the other days are in good old Second Life. but a major conference, whichever venue or both that you attend from. And we will have more on that in future weeks leading up to it. New York Times, there's another well-respected journal, paper, whatever. Before you take the trip, how about a virtual test drive? Talking about the way you can travel to places using virtual reality before you actually take a trip to there in real life, so to speak. It reminds me of days when I was teaching Photoshop, and I really lost interest when some of our clients ended up being travel agents. And I thought, no, I'm not going to teach you how to put an unbuilt hotel on a beach when in fact it's being built in the mountains about 100 miles from the beach. This is fraud, in my opinion. I suppose this does make sense if you can, especially if it's 360 photography and stuff, if you can virtually visit something and move around in it, and experience what it's like before you go. Hopefully, when you do go, it won't be too much different, for one thing. But anyway, travel, VR being a good way of promoting travel. Also, last week, of course, up at YouTube, VR review news posted by Moblin VR. You'll actually VR review news is what you actually look for on YouTube if you want to find that. Just a short 5-minute bulletin about all the new headsets and hardware and stuff. Engadget reports that scientists are making virtual reality displays that match your eyesight. So if you do see a future for yourself in something on eyewear, then maybe it will in future match your eyesight. Using virtuality to get inside an alien person's world. This was an article at Forbes. Actually, they start the article talking about George Orwell 80 years ago, but that's sort of not really part of it. Basically, the idea is putting yourself in the place of another person who may be ailing or whatever. So experience what it's like to be another person through virtual reality, especially a disadvantaged person. Immersive reality also helps autistic kids deal with the real thing. This article I got in front of me comes from newsatlas.com. That's New Atlas, not News Atlas. NEW and then Atlas, but all one word. And how autistic kids are being treated. And there's a very similar post as well from the National Health Service site in the UK here, who are one of the organisations doing that. I mentioned Medium earlier. We'll talk about this more, but I'll give you some links now. Philip Rosedale wrote an article earlier, about 3 days ago, called Metaverse Identity on the Blockchain, which you'll find at medium.com. And if I can find it, where's the other one? And another article by Fred Ishram, I think you pronounce it. VR is a killer blockchain app. That was also on Medium. Clearly, both of these people, Philip and Fred, had been at some kind of developers conference a couple of days earlier. 10 executives of the largest VR companies they described themselves as. And clearly, this was a talking point for them, and it will be a talking point for us on In World Review shortly after this program. Flipping back again. So both of those are at medium.com. Yes, here we are. Virtuality-news.net. The NHS, which is the National Health Service here in the UK, offers Blue Room VR treatment to help children with autism overcome their fears. So a bit more about what's happening on that front. Post number 505 of Voices of VR podcast. Beaming the Matrix into your eyes. The CEO of a company called Otoy talks about the future of real-time light field rendering. Digital Trends had an interesting experience. We tried IMAX VR and it left us excited as hell, and then brackets, and weak at the knees. Apparently the reviewer, apparently they were given some mixed experiences, but one of the surprising experiences, the reviewer actually claimed he was feeling it, a couple of hours afterwards in his body. But basically, they seem to be really taken aback by IMAX's prototype VR cinema. Obviously, it's way beyond anything you get with Oculus and stuff you can use in the home or the office. It's a dedicated cinema construct for VR, full of little booths. And I think the the idea is they're going to be using VR booths in the foyers of the actual cinema. So you might have a 15-minute experience in a booth that is before or after a film you're seeing, and connections that way. They're not talking about full-length IMAX feature VR films or anything. Virtuality is bringing these lost worlds back to life. This was an article at NBC News, and it's really talking about historical recreations, archaeology, and stuff like that. And yet another article at TechCrunch on unlocking the potential of eye tracking technology. Eye tracking being the big thing here, I guess, at the moment. Okay, so that's it for general headlines. Unrelated to it. No real social worlds news that I can see in front of me today, so I'm going straight on to the hypergrid news. Although Maria is not here today, her colleague David Karugi did put out one post at Hypergrid Business a couple of days back, and the title is "The Hypergrid Hits Record High as a Share of OpenSim Users." Basically, closed worlds are on decline, I think, is basically the message. Open worlds that are connected to the hypergrid are on the rise. There are the usual graphs and things there, and I imagine Maria might give a more elaborate information about that next week. But meanwhile, you will find that post at hypergridbusiness.com. Kitely.com, that's KITELY.com. Ileana has posted a couple of days back saying that they're proud to announce they passed a new milestone with significant growth in the Kitely market. And they have now sold over 100,000 US dollars worth of virtual goods to date. So they've reached the $100,000 mark of transactions, so to speak. And as always, if you're around on Wednesday at noon, Hypergrid Safari will be meeting on FrancoGrid. I'll have a poster to show you of that later on in World Review, but basically it starts at FrancoGrid, goes to Fireworks, spelled with a double X, Metropolis, and then it goes to a final one that I can't see on this picture, but it's all to do with something coming up called Cornflakes Week, which we'll be discussing later too. Right, and I have a final button here to press to see if there's anything I've missed, and yay, no, there isn't. So all that remains really for this show, at least, is to get some updates on the developers. Yes, we can't live without them, can we? So I think maybe you have something for us there, James.
Well, sure, Mal. Hi. It was a very quiet week in the developer meeting. Now, again, this is not a developer meeting per se. It's office hours when anybody can come and speak with developers. There's not a like an official channel. It's just open time to have open discussion. But you do get a chance to speak with the OpenSim developers. Just a few people there. Just 6 people came last Tuesday. Again, this is Tuesday at 11 o'clock Second Life time, Pacific time. Oh, I said that Second Life thing, didn't I?
Hey,
that was
well,
habit.
well, it's the same there as it is here.
Right. It is a
Or
time.
something.
It's a time reference, so it works.
It's Pacific.
That's right, Pacific time in the United States. So, most interesting, there have been no code commits since the 2nd of February. So I wasn't really certain about what's going on. There was a lot of work on merging threads, and so I think maybe there's a little bit of a step back, and the permissions thing was being worked on, and so I'll be looking forward to see what's come up on next Tuesday, but otherwise it was very quiet. So Selby Evans was there. And again, everything I'm talking about is in the posted meeting notes that are on the opensimulator.org development area. And he talked about this Infinite Metaverse Alliance and shared this with the developers. And
Yeah.
so, that's something that's probably going to come up later in the show. But there were some questions from the developers about that. And then there was a little bit of interesting discussion towards the end. Selby also had taken questions from the previous week about export permissions and how those worked on the Kitely grid. And so there was a little bit of more explanation about how Kitely actually uses a different flag to show something being exportable, not the OpenSIM asset flag. And so Kitely controls exports from the Kitely market in a slightly different way than Open Simulator would as a standalone, as the core code. And so a couple
Hmm.
of developers commented, well, knowing that made them a little more comfortable about putting their objects for sale on the Kitely market, which I found interesting. And so I think there was just then a short discussion about web worlds, which relates to the Cyber Lounge work that's going on and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, that's pretty much the bulk of the discussion.
Great. Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned Selby, and at least in reference to Infinite Metaverse Alliance. Now, uh, if you want to know a bit about more of this, the place to go is infiniteMetaverse.com. That's infinite with an E on the end, and then metaverse, but all one word.
I think it's
And
I think it's a
sorry.
.org. It's a .org.
Oh, well, I've got it. I've got it in front of me,
Oh,
and
you do have a .com.
it's
Okay.
showing up as a .com.
Oh, okay, good.
So hopefully, hopefully you'll get there.
Yep.
The other way to actually check them out is that they actually have a Google group. So if you're in Google Plus and look up communities, you want to look up Infinite Metaverse Alliance.
Hmm.
Now, I actually joined this literally a couple of hours ago, and I have a couple of things on screen that are written up there. There are obviously a few familiar names here. Steve Levine, I see, Lisa Laxton. These are people we know from the Open Community conference. The subtitle of Infinite Metaverse Alliance is Advancing Virtual Worlds and Virtuality, which is pretty abstract sort of um, quote, really. But there's a few posts up there, and they're going to tell us a bit more about what's coming. I will obviously try and hunt somebody down, possibly Lisa Laxton, to come on and tell us a bit more about what they're going to be doing. But that will have to wait for another week. But since they're new and it's fresh, it's therefore news.
That's
So
right.
I'm ending the news with an announcement about them.
Oh, Mal,
Just in the,
I'm sorry, one
yeah.
comment. There is a person in chat who says it's both .org and .com. So,
Oh, very good. Okay,
yep.
well, if you don't get to on the .com, try a .org. You never know.
Right.
You know, it's we seem to live in a world of alternate this and that. So there you go. You've got two alternates for this. No comment, really.
Yep.
Yes, but try both. And of course, the Google Plus group. Maybe the back end is divided all over the place. It depends on which page you're reading. But yeah, it's I've definitely got a .com open at the moment for the news blog. So there we go. And you can join there. You can join them on Google Plus, and presumably. In fact, I'll click on it for you while we're here. Join us, become a member, membership benefits. Okay, well, nothing's happening actually. But I suspect they have some kind of more advanced membership thing going on via the website. Okay. Well, I think that's it for this week's news. Um, we aren't finished with you yet, as the saying goes, because we will be at noon. We'll be coming back on air again live with this week's edition of the In-World Review. That's literally let me see. Oh, it's been a short news, hasn't it? That's literally in about 35, 40 minutes time. So we'll be back with you then. Meanwhile, hope you've enjoyed the news. Have a good week, and we'll be back next week. Bye for now.